come on. Are you really that bad? God. Oh, what the fuck?
Fudgesicle.
Guys, I was going to try and film and I thought I would try to get this in before this light packed itself. As you can see, I'm too late. This light is crap. Absolute crap. It's gone from bad to worse. Bloody hell. Okay guys, I'm going to persist with this video because I really want to make this video and a lot of it's going to be down on the table anyway. So sorry for that little lighting fiasco that just occurred there. Luckily I have photography lights because it's getting dark in here and I don't have any natural light. And I don't think that would be enough anyway to have some natural light. You still need lights, otherwise it just doesn't look good on camera. So I am sitting amongst 3 lights pointed at me and it's still looking a little bit dark, so I do apologise. Anyway, I'm wanting to do the next video about the seed bead sizes, you know, so I've just filmed one which is about seed bead sizes, you know, all the different sizes. I managed to get hold of some antique, hard to find sizing that you can't get anymore and that's not manufactured anymore, and I ran out of time and decided to do a separate video for the seed bead shapes for anyone who's interested to see that. Now, what I have realised is I don't have all the seed bead shapes. What is this travesty? You know, your craft nerd gal's going to have to go shopping, right? In the meantime though, I will share with you what I do have, and I foresee a haul in the very near future because, you know, excuse to go shopping. Maybe I was thinking like I can do screen capture now. I wonder if I could even do screen capture of what I pick out, although that might take forever because, you know, I can do some serious shopping when I want to and I take a while to decide what I want, so we'll see. I'll see what happens if I think that I can, you know, do a quick shop. Maybe that can be a challenge. I'll like give myself some sort of time frame to go shopping and buy things, and then we'll have another video to, you know, see what I bought. Let me know what you think of that idea and maybe we'll do that. And also I'll be shopping for a new ring light because
Fairy light.
This thing is just cray. Yeah. So anyway, I thought today we'll go through and have a look at some of the different seed bead shapes that you can get. Now, it's become a bit of a trend for a while now, really, to have all different types of shapes for seed beads. You know, I guess what makes them still a seed bead as such is they are still quite small. They're often used in a lot of stitches that are not embroidery work. A lot of the times, I mean, sometimes they are used in embroidery work, don't get me wrong, but they're very good in things like right angle weave. Certain shapes are anyway, and then certain shapes are great for embroidery as well. It just depends what you're doing and the shape that you want and that sort of thing, but I'll talk about each one and what I've used it for and what I've seen it used in and things like that. And yeah, let's go down onto the table where I don't need a bloody ring light. Alright, now let's get into the pretty shiny things, because pretty shiny things makes the world better. It makes us happy, and it makes us forget about stupid light things that don't work and break. Now I'm just going to start with droplet beads just because, because why the hell not? I'm not sure where to start, so we'll just start somewhere. So these are Magatamas. They're a Toho droplet bead, and I'll put a few out here. These are very small droplet beads. If you can see there, the hole is obviously to one side, whereas a round seed bead, it would be right in the middle. It's got that little bulbous sort of end to it there, and it's perfect for fringe. You might just even want to use it because it gives a different shape to things. So that thin end and the fat bottom can work really well in certain stitches. Maybe you're wanting a right angled weave that is circular, for example, and so having one end be thinner than the other is perfect for that. They're just a good bead to have in your stash, really. And I quite like these ones. I sell these particular ones on my site. Now I do have one that's referred to as a droplet bead or drop bead. These are a Miyuki droplet bead, and you can see that they are bigger. So it's the same concept, it's just that it's larger. Quite often, I think usually these beads are not listed in sizes so much as they are in millimeters. So you will often see just the millimeter size. So the pink ones here are a 3 millimeter. And I believe these other ones are 4 millimeters. And also they're two different brands as well, so they can be a lot different. The Magatamas, I find, usually are a little smaller. The drop beads have a bigger bum on them, if you like. I think I have seen these listed as with different names to them. But when I had a look again to see, I just had a look on Fire Mountain Gems. I actually bought these beads though through Beadsmith, and yeah, just to see what they listed them as, and they call them just a long Magatama. So it's essentially calling it the same thing as this little bulbous droplet bead, but these ones are quite angular, if you can see. So it's like they've been sliced on an angle. I don't know if this is a good analogy, but when you're cutting carrots and you're trying to be fancy and you cut it on an angle, that's kind of what I think of when I see these. So they're not going to sit quite the same because even the hole is like angled. So just need to bear that in mind. It may sit differently, like for fringe work and things, it's not going to be as uniform. So it will sit just a little differently, which just might mean you need to think of a different way to assemble it if you're using it for fringe. I'm just saying because I use these a lot for fringe. So if I want to put a fringe on a beaded cabochon or something like that, then I will use, a lot of times at the end of the of each fringe piece, I might put one of these to finish it off. So they're quite good for that. Okay, now these are not the same type of bead, but to me they're very similar in shape, so let's have a look at them side by side. These ones are called a Rizzo bead, and they're again like the hole is off center, so it's sort of a little like drop bead, but these are a lot longer. If I put them next to each other, you might be able to see. So these are a lot longer than your little drop magatamas, or even actually they're probably a little bit similar in length to these long angular magatamas, but as you can see it's a totally different shape. So the angled sort of magatama, the green one there, that one is an angled hole and an angled bead. It's almost a diamond, whereas the other one is just long and thin and quite even in shape all the way down, and the hole is not angled or anything like that, it's just quite even. So again, these would be fantastic for fringe work. You know, a lot of times beads, like all of these beads, work really well with things like right angle weave as well, maybe even edge work, you know, all sorts of things, really just limited by your imagination and you know, just trialing it with different stitches and things like that. But they're very pretty, these ones. It's a Capri Gold, so it's sort of got the foiling on one side though, which gives it a lovely depth. And just to show you another colour of those, I have these ones as well. So that's just a different colour of the same bead. Again, it's a Rizzo, it's 2.5 by 6 millimeters, light vitriol, that colour is. And I believe you can get a number of different sizes with these as well. Oh, now I realised in my last video I was talking about not only sizes of seed beads but the different manufacturers of seed beads, and I realised I actually do have some Matsuno beads, these ones here, that I bought at a craft show years ago now, and these are a hexagon shape, so I thought I would show them. They actually call these ones, it says a 2-cut, but to me they look more like a hex. Let's pour some out and have a look. So you can see they're quite cylindrical, these ones. I do notice that a lot of the cut beads, aside from the Charlottes, seem to be quite cylindrical generally speaking, and you know, have a couple of faceted sides. Honestly, although they call these a 2-cut, I'm looking at them and they look like a hexagon shape to me, because it's got 6 sides, so I think they may be labelled incorrectly. But while we're looking at hexagon shapes, let me show you some other hexagon ones that I have. These are actually ones that I have in my shop. Alright, so I've just poured out a small pile of the Hex size 11 gold line crystal beads. So they're quite small. It will be difficult to see the hex shape, but they are a hexagon shape. They've got the 6 sides and they sit really nicely actually, because they are sort of a cylinder almost, and you know, they will butt up against each other quite nicely. You could use these for anything that requires a fair bit of uniformity. I would say these hex beads are not as great for organic beadwork. You know, you may not get those smooth curved edges if you're trying to, you know, do some embroidery around a curve, for example, but these would make a nice straight line. They would stitch well, I think, in brick stitch, peyote, square stitch, any of those. And, you know, the nice thing of using different shapes is, as well, even if you are just doing quite a simple shape, and even if you are doing curves, for example, on some embroidery work, having a few different, you know, shapes of seed beads can make a really interesting effect. So you could even keep the colour fairly monotone or entirely monotone, but change up the size and shape of beads just to give, you know, real textural effects to things. So you could definitely do that. I think these would probably work quite well for, say, a herringbone, or, you know, tubular herringbone. I haven't tried that, but I think they would be good for that. Now I'm just going to pour out some size 8 hex beads. These will make it a little bit easier for you to see the shape. Okay, so I have the black hex beads there. So you can see that hex shape there when I hold it like that. Realize this is quite small, so if you are watching this on a mobile, that might be a little bit difficult to see. But yeah, again, that's a size 8 hex bead in the Toho. And same thing as the size 11. I think they would be very good in anything where the beads need to sit quite uniformly next to one another, just because they've got those nice flat sides that are going to sit, you know, nice and flush next to one another. It would work for curved beadwork, but I'm not sure if it would work as well because they are cylindrical, and I just find the lines of curved beadwork, you know, if you want nice flowy lines, you sort of really want to stick with the rounds, generally speaking. But, you know, it depends what you're going for. Don't let me dictate the rules. There shouldn't be any rules. You just need to learn what does what so that you can work out how to make what you want. So I'll move now into the cubes. These are referred to in millimeters for sizing rather than the aught sizing. So you can see that cube shape there. 4 mils quite large, but you know, these would be great for stringing. I'm not sure how they would go for things like square stitch and brick stitch and things like that, just because of how big they are. So, you know, my only hesitation with doing stitches like that with large beads is that there's going to be a lot more thread showing between the beads because of the size of the beads. But, you know, again, they'll sit nice and flush next to one another, so very good for anything where it's a sort of straight line or butting up to one another, and things like that. Now I do have a smaller cube here, so I'll pull some of those out. This is a 1.5 millimeter cube, so it's a tiny little baby one. And I really like the cubes for a lot of different stitches, in fact. So I think they would substitute into any stitch where you might use the delicas or any of the cylinder beads like treasures or delicas or whichever brand you're using, because again, the shape of them just allows it to sit next to one another very nicely. Because they are so small, you know, you can do all sorts of very nice fine stitching with them. Okay, so let's have a look at some triangles. Now, for some reason the triangles are in an aught sizing. I don't know if this is just the ones that I have purchased, you know, the sellers that I'm buying from have measured them in that way. I'll try and find that out for you guys, and maybe I'll put a little annotation, because I just find it curious that the cubes are in millimeters and the triangles are not, and I actually am not sure why that is offhand. So yeah, you can see the shape of it there. It can give quite an interesting look for embroidery work, because if you are just even back stitching this, then you'll have almost a ridge because of the triangle shape, which is very interesting. And you know, it can work for some interesting stitches because of the triangle shape. So it could be a really interesting shape, the triangle, if you were doing some rope stitching, you know, stitching this into a beaded rope, because if you had 6 of those together, you'll have you know, like a hexagon shape. I do also have some size 8 triangles, but I didn't bring them up to the table this time, and you know, they're just a larger size obviously than that one. Actually, I'll just show you one more hexagon shape too while I'm at it, because I do have these guys here. So these are a Miyuki, and they're a hex cut. So yeah, there is a size difference there. You can see the 2 beads I have on my needle. I have the Miyuki and the Toho, the smaller being the Miyuki hex cut seed bead, and it's a Delica type of hex bead, and the other one is just the Toho size 11 hex bead. So a fair bit of difference in the sizing of those two, which is interesting and worth noting if you know you are using these beads and wanting a certain size. Okay, now let's just move into some of the longer beads. These are known as bugle beads. There's all different sizes of bugle beads, and you can also get different, you can get like twisted ones and sort of hex ones and things like that. But I just brought these 2 out to show you. So one of them is a small bugle bead, a 3mm. So you can see, I mean, it's a similar concept to like a Delica in its shape, but it's longer. And often the really long bugle beads are actually quite thick as well, so that's something to bear in mind. It's a little different to a Delica in that respect, because they're not as small. So if I that's a hex cut Delica, but you can still get the idea that is a bit smaller in diameter. And the larger the bugle, the bigger the diameter. And these are the largest ones I have. I haven't used them yet. I'm not sure what I'm going to use these for because they're massive. You do need to be a little bit careful with bugle beads that are large though, just because, and particularly with the silver line ones, sometimes that will wear off a little bit in the middle and looks a bit rough. So, you know, that silver keeps it looking, you know, nice and uniform colour, but if that got scratches in it, you're going to see that through the glass and it doesn't look as nice. So just bear that in mind, be careful using them. Don't use them in a place where they're going to get a lot of friction, because that could be an issue down the track and not look as nice. But they're kind of cool. Oh, I do have some twisted ones too. You can see that twisted shape that goes up the seed bead there, the bugle bead. So that's quite interesting. And these are actually a Matsuno as well. I forgot I had these Matsunos in my stash. Alright, now for something a little different. I've got these berry beads. So I'll pull some of them out. So these are a Miyuki berry bead. These ones are in grey iris. They're 2.5 by 4.5 millimeters. So the berry beads to me They look sort of like, the best way I can describe them is they look a little bit like the magatamas, as if two magatamas have been sort of fused together, because it's got that bulge on both sides and it's thin in the middle where the hole is. And when they sit next to one another, they often sit, you know, at different angles and just give a really interesting look. So this is a Czechoslovakian version of that same berry bead, and the name of this one is, now I think this is how you say it, farfalle. I'm butchering that, I'm sure. It's Farfalle. If anyone knows the correct pronunciation of that one, please let me know. I'm trying. I was always referring to them as farfalle, but I've realised I'm adding like letters into that, so that's not correct. Anyway, you can see when they're on the string there, this gives you a bit of a look of how they would look when you rope them up. They sit sort of at right angles to each other quite often, and I quite like that look. You could even just string these on, you know, just like that and not do anything with it, and it would be quite a nice, you know, strap for a necklace or something. Okay, so I've also got these Super Duo. These are Czechoslovakian 2-hole beads. So you can see they're sort of, where the holes are, it's sort of between the two holes, it's thicker, and then it sort of angles off. So it's not like a flat bead with two holes in it. It's almost a diamond or something. If you look at it, you know, top down, it's sort of a diamond shape with two holes. I haven't played around with those that much. Now, interestingly, these ones are referred to as the same thing. So these are a 2-hole. Both of them are 2.5 by 5 mil twin, you know, 2-hole bead, but the silver ones here are fairly flat. You know, this is almost like a grain of sand, a grain of rice, sorry, shape, you know, long and thin and with two holes and quite smooth, whereas these ones here seem much more angled. So it's interesting to me that they're both so different. Okay, so the next ones I have are these ones here. How cool is that mix of colours? They're like little candies. In fact, I think the colour of this was called candy. And these ones are a ring bead, or they're sometimes known as a donut bead. I do find these beads, unfortunately, not very consistent in size and shape, which is quite frustrating, because I think they'd be a very nice type of like shape of bead to use for things if they were more consistent. But you can even see, just looking here, there's a couple of ones that have been cut funny. There's one that's missing a chunk. I've unfortunately found them not to be the greatest in consistency, but they are a very nice bead, and can be quite nice to use even as a spacer bead. I like using it for like a stop stitch as well, you know, putting a bead on top of that as the stopper and, you know, going back down through. And yeah, so that they can be quite a nice bead, but just not the most consistent. I actually have a purple, gold lustered purple as well. Alright, the last one I have on hand are these, which are the Miyuki Tiller bead. So these are very nice and consistent in size. being Mayuki, they are again a Japanese brand. They have the 2 holes, as you can see, in each bead. They would work very well again as a spacer bead, and I've seen all sorts of different stitches with these. I love the finish on these ones as well. This is an iris. It's a black matte AB. Alright guys, so I'm going to leave it there. They're all the shapes that I have on hand, as well as the ones I mentioned that I know of that are floating around. Like I said, there's probably all sorts of other shapes out there as well. And I'll probably do an order and see if I can get hold of some of those shapes and sizes so we can have a look and a play with them. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm so sorry about the lighting situation. Thanks for persisting with me through this one, and hopefully I will have my lighting situation sorted for the next video. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button too, by the way, so you don't miss any of the future creative goodness that is coming on the channel. And I feel like I'm right up here. Anyway, I'm gonna leave you guys because I need to eat and it's been a really long day and technology is not my friend. I feel like Neil from The Young Ones, like even the phones hate me. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Bye, craft nerds. What the hell? This ring light's working again. It's like it knew I was filming and it turned itself off while I filmed the video. Now that I've finished filming the video, it's back on again. I really hate this ring light. I really hate this ring light. I mean, not that I want the light to stop working, but seriously, the timing of this thing is so... I don't know what the hell's going on with this thing. Seriously, the light's not even flashing now. I don't understand. Ooh, I'm orange. You is crap.